Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Angelina Lukas versus Daniela Asenjo rematch. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into this. So this is a rematch for the IBO World Super Flyweight title, and this is Lukas trying to get and avenge the only loss on her professional record, like I mentioned, being against Asensio. And I think it's a good contest. It will definitely be interesting. I think there's a few different factors that are definitely kind of come into play that could perhaps make the result a little bit different to that of what it was in the first fight. So Lukas has fought 3 times this year. She's not defended her IBO belt, which she won at the latter point of last year. But like I say, she's fought already 3 times. She's fought in Russia once, and I believe Turkey twice, and she's been able to look good. She's got 1 or 2 stoppages, and she obviously hasn't been fighting a great level of opposition, but it's a good level, and she's been able to look good whilst doing so and showcase her Kazakh, I suppose, style, in which is aggressive, is powerful, is physical, is wanting to keep coming forwards, but also being able to fight relatively well off a jab at the same time. I think she does still kind of struggle with a few things like lunging in a bit at times and ducking her head down a bit, but I think she has got power, even if it's perhaps a bit clumsy of power, but it's solid, it's aggressive, it does do enough to be able to cause damage. It can be smothered a bit at times, but like I say, she is doing her best in the circumstances in which she's given, and often is able to get a win from it. I mean, like I say, the only loss in which she did have, of course, like I say, was against Asensio, and that was back in 2023 via majority decision, where that was at Bantamweight. And of course, this is at super flyweight, and Asensio has also recently fought at flyweight when she fought Gabriela Fundora. So Asensio has been uh, adjusting in weight quite a bit, and there is quite a relatively significant height difference. I believe Lukas is 5'5" and Asensio is 5'1". I mean, when Asensio fought Fundora, there was a major height difference, and it was quite surprising to see that Asensio was able to make the same weight as Fundora because of how big Fundora looked. But Fundora is, of course, big for her weight division. But Asensio basically won that fight pretty much just out jabbing Lukas. Didn't really do a tremendous amount more, but like I said, did kind of just out jab her. And Lukas at the time was just getting caught coming in. I feel like Lukas maybe has improved and maybe is a bit more physical than what she once was, and maybe be able to have a bit more success. I think she's still clumsily coming in, but I think she is improving with that and is trying to be lighter on her feet and trying to move a bit better. So inevitably, I think she is improving a bit. So again, it's another factor that could come into play as to why perhaps Lukas could be able to win. I believe that she is the favourite for this fight, Lukas, and like I said, there's definitely a few good factors there. Like I say, the regularity in which Lukas has been fighting, the fact that it's at the super flyweight division, that most likely does suit Lukas, and also the fact that it is in, from what I believe, Kazakhstan, this fight, so it is going to be a more difficult environment for Asensio to be able to deal with, and it's a homecoming type fight for Lukas, to be fair. I mean, of course, she's a world champion, yes, IBO belt is an IBO belt, you take it as you will, but it's still a world title, and Lukas hasn't really had much of an opportunity to be able to showcase herself at a high level. I mean, she hasn't really been able to have much of an opportunity to showcase her boxing in general throughout her career so far in Kazakhstan. I believe only having a couple of fights out there early on in her career. So, like I mentioned, this is a good opportunity for Lukas to be able to showcase a good level of skill and showcase a big fight, in which is very important in her career so far, because if she avenges and rights the wrong, she can probably go on to big fights as a result of it. And so, someone like an Asensio is a tough fighter. She lost to Fundora, but went all the rounds against Fundora, where, to be fair, that has aged really well. Not too many fighters in recent times have been able to go all the rounds against Fundora, and to be honest, she didn't have loads of success. Fundora was landing much cleaner shots, much more varied shots, timing her consistently. Every time that she planted her feet, she was getting basically just pushed back by Fundora, and the sheer kind of size of Fundora and also the speed of hand as well was just causing way too much problems. The body shots included as well was just way too tough for Asensio to be able to deal with. I think Asensio was throwing too many singular shots. I think her jab is good, but it's a strong jab. It's sat down on quite well, but it's not. It can be a jab that you can get through if you can, work around it and if you can impose your size. And she doesn't follow it up that well. And I do believe that Angelina Lukas is going to be able to win via unanimous decision. Another factor which is going to be playing into Asensio's favour, there's a couple years that have progressed from the first fight, and now Lukas is 34 years of age, where Asensio, I believe, is 28 years of age. So there is that bit more noticeable of an age gap between the two of them, which I think will probably play a bit of a factor, in the fact that she did lose quite convincingly against Gabriela Fundora. And again, like I mentioned, the activity of Lukas, I think it is going to play into her favour, and I think she is going to be able to get that win in which she's very much wanting, I'm sure. And then, like I mentioned, that will hopefully put her into a good stead, into a good rank position, and perhaps, the IBO title doesn't always necessarily on the men's side of things get you into too high of a level of more kind of important, I suppose, world ranked bodies. But with the women's side of things, I feel like winning an IBO title could definitely progress you on to go on to fight for a world title next, to be honest. And I feel like Lukas probably is due a world title, and maybe bringing her to, or bringing some more fighters over to her, maybe having some more fights in Kazakhstan. I know there's not been a massive market of women's fighters in Kazakhstan, and I feel like there's definitely going to be a market there, because I know that the Kazakhstan fans really get behind their own. You've seen that with Janabek recently, where they have really gotten behind and supported their own, and I'm sure they would do that with somebody like Lukas if she was able to become a major world champion. Perhaps she could go on to fight something like a Fundora. Obviously, that would most likely require her to go down to the flyweight division, which I'm not entirely sure if Asensio would be, not Asensio, if Lukas would be willing to do, but perhaps she might be. If not, giving somebody like Dolan an opportunity, I'm sure Emma Dolan would be willing to do that, but I think that's just because I am calling for Emma Dolan at most opportunities to fight anybody at the super flyweight division, just because she is definitely deserving an opportunity, and as a Brit, I want to see her get that next step and progress along in her career, because I feel like she is getting messed about, I suppose, a little bit. But now she's with GBM Sports, maybe she could get an opportunity. Perhaps Lukas could fly over to the UK and fight Dolan. If not, something like a Hiruta is Japanese fighter who's been fighting with 360 Boxing Promotions. She's arguably the biggest name in the division at the moment, in the super flyweight division. She's WBO champion. She's getting a bit more recognition. She's got quite a flashy style mixed in with also the fact that she can stand toe to toe and still can have a war and look impressive whilst doing so. So I think that could definitely play into a good fight. Perhaps Hiruta might be able to box better than that of Lukas at certain times, but if they both stand toe to toe, perhaps Lukas might be the more physical out of the two. So like I say, I feel like that definitely could play into a nice matchup there. And so again, I believe there is some really good opportunities there, and Lukas, who is being backed by her manager, who's also a trainer, who also I believe is fighting on this card as well this weekend. So just a guy who's basically can do everything. I feel like he could definitely progress her along well and nicely into perhaps a world title opportunity next, if not a final eliminator, because I don't think there is too many matchups in the super flyweight division left that Lukas is kind of at that level. So I feel like she could definitely, like I say, progress on into a world title after this. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like video if you did, indeed like video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.